Hi everyone and welcome. This is Sandra from Sandra Bianco Photography, and today I just want to recap on the Innocence collection because it's been a little bit since I've done a video for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we are going to go right into the Innocence retouch. And I usually start with my all of my skin stuff first, and then I go into more of the artistic enhancements. So I am just going to go down into my smoother no detail, and this is what I use if it's like a portrait that's far away. I would use Flawless Skin if it was a little bit more up close, and there is another video on that, so check that out. But we're going to go right into smoother no detail. I'm going to take my opacity of my brush down to about 40%, and I'm just going to go ahead and start smoothing her skin. I do like to go up into the hairline, and I'm going to step back there for a minute. And I do like to stay away from like the smile lines because I'm not trying to change the shape of her face. I'm just trying to give her a little bit of smoothness. We're going to go down and onto the legs, and I'm just going to go ahead and take my opacity down to about 20% and just paint that on her legs a little bit to give it some added softness. And another little trick when you're in here is if you needed like a little bit more blurring in your image, all you would have to do is just say, let's just bump the opacity up into the 50s somewhere and get your brush bigger. And I can just paint a little bit of this on the bottom, and that just gives it a little bit more smoothing. So let me click on and off up close here for you, and just so you can see what I did there on her skin so far. Okay, we're going to go right down into Skin Tone Fresh. And again, these are my go-tos. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my opacity back up to 100% on here. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint this. I actually paint this on the clothing and the skin, the hair a lot, only with the Fresh, because it's just more like a really clean tone, and it brightens things up a bit. So I'm going to paint a little bit on her socks down there. And then I'm going to go into Skin Tone Peachy. And I'm going to go ahead and take my opacity down to about 58. And I'm going to go ahead and paint this on her skin. And this is going to peach her up a bit. And I don't want to forget her hands and her legs. And when I get down to the legs, just because they're in a little bit more shade and shadow, I'm going to go ahead and take my opacity down some on that. And just paint a little bit on her legs. Okay, then we're going to go right into the eye makeover brushes, and I'm going to go into Base Eye Foundation. And I'm going to bring my opacity back up to 100. And I'm going to just get my brush small enough to go inside of her eyeball, and I'm going to go ahead and brighten those up. You can see there, if I click on and off, what that does. And if it's not enough, she's got really dark eyes, so you can even change the opacity on the action itself. So if I took it up to 100%, you can see what a big difference that makes there. I don't like the whites to look too fake, so I just try to keep it subtle. We're going to keep that at about 73, and I like to step it back just to make sure that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so then we're going to go into Iris Soft Sharpen. And I'm going to get my brush bigger at 100%, and I'm just going to go over her eyeballs, lashes, and all. And that's going to give us a nice sharp eye. And then we can go into lashes, darken and thicken. I'm going to take my opacity down on this to about 50%, and I'll just go over her lash line a bit. Looks good. We're going to go into the lip makeover brushes. I'm going to go ahead and use Lip Red Rosy. I like to bring my opacity back up to 100 for this. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint this on her lips. And I'm just adjusting my brush using the bracket keys. And then I'm just going to go ahead and take it down. Just want a teeny bit of color there. That looks good. And then I'm going to go back up to my skin tones. And I like to use either Blush or Bashful for my skin tone. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Bashful. And I like to get my brush a little bit bigger for this. And I'm just going to place this on the apples of her cheeks. And then I'll go ahead and reduce that opacity. And I'm just going to go ahead and mask off where I know I went over just a tiny bit. Okay, so we're done with the skin correcting. And we are going to go right into the Innocence 2 is where we're going to start. And I am going to run Endless Summer. And I know this is a fall image, but I want you to see what Endless Summer does to this image because I truly love what it just did as a base. It really brings out nice light and brightness. Ah, see there? Look at all that pretty light that just comes in. And I really love how it enhanced her skin tone as well. So if it's a little bit too bright, I'm just going to go ahead and take it down. And there's no rhyme or reason of how I'm taking it down. I'm just changing my opacity to my liking. So just, feel free to play with that a little bit. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down into the artistic enhancements. Again, we're in the Innocence Workflow 2 right now. We're going to go into Lemonhead. And I'm going to go ahead and invert Lemonhead. And I want to just paint this on the light at 100%. So I'm just going to go ahead and I don't want to paint this so much on my subject because it can blow out the highlights. You can definitely leave a little bit there, but I'm just going to go ahead and go over the fall leaves and go over the light that's in the back. And you can see there if I turn it on and off. Let me go ahead and bring it up a little bit. So you can see what that's doing there. The next thing we're going to do is go into Hot Tamale. And again, because this is a fall image, I'm trying to stick with the tones that are just going to enhance this the best. And I'm going to go ahead and take my opacity down to about 50%. And I'm going to paint this on the leaves on the ground. And then just a little bit up in here. And I'm just spotting this on in certain places. I don't want to paint it all over my image because I always like to leave a little bit for like dimension. So I don't want it to all look the same because in real life it just wouldn't be the same. Okay, and then we're going to go down into our golden leaves. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint this on for you so you can see, but we can really add some more brightness there in the back to enhance that. And I'll take that down just a little bit. And then we're going to go jump down into our fall background colors. And I'm going to choose Sangria. And I'm going to take my brush down to about 20%, somewhere in that range. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint this on a little bit. Again, I'm painting it on the leaves because I want to give those some nice rich tones and just a little bit to make it look more like yellows and reds are coming in the background to the light. And again, I only put that on at like 20%, but I can easily go ahead and now take my opacity down if I felt like that was getting a little bit too red and too fake looking. But I like it right there. That looks good. And then we're going to go down into our botanical blends. And I am going to choose lavender because purple kind of cancels out greens just a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave it on my foreground. And I am literally taking this down to almost nothing. So we're going to take it down to like 4%. And you can see there, just like look at more like the bottom of this image, what it's doing, just adding a little teeny bit of purple haze. I'm going to go ahead and click into my layer mask. And I want to definitely mask this off of my subject at 100% in case there's any fall off. I don't want any purple tones coming onto my subject. So I really just wanted that teeny bit coming in at the bottom. It's coming in up on the tree a little bit, and that's perfect for me. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten this. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go down to our Velveteen actions, which are my favorites in the set. I pretty much use them every single time. And Radiant just seems to be my go-to. It works very well on all of my images and the way that I shoot. So I'm just going to go into Velveteen Radiant and play that. And you can see that that just brings in that nice creamy tone. It brings in a nice richness to it. It adds some highlight and shadow to her face automatically. I am just going to go ahead and bump that down just a tiny bit at about 73%. And it looks really good. Let me blow this up for you so you can see it a little bit better. That's with it not on. This is with it on. So it just brings in that really pretty creaminess. Okay, and then we're going to go jump into the Innocence one. And I am going to go down into my vignettes here. You can go ahead and flatten this, which are near the bottom. If I go too fast, then I'll miss it. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and choose Federal. So Federal is more like a blue tone. And again, that's going to cancel out some of the limey greens and just give it a little bit more of a richer color. And I really like Federal on my fall images, along with Tuscan and Butternut as well. But for this particular image, the Federal just works really well because it's keeping those tones where I like them. And I always just, because it is a gradient, so I always just like to go over my subject to make sure that there is no fall off coming into my subject. And I'm just going to go ahead and flatten that. And that is really it. So let me go ahead and take a snapshot of this. And this is where we started. Dull, boring, and green, right? And here's where we finished. It's a beautiful fall image with a cute little girl. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And look for more tutorials coming soon. I'm going to try to do more of this maybe once a month, once every few months. Thank you guys. Enjoy. And if you have any questions, you're free to email me or email info@greaterthangatsby.com. Bye now.